it's been a while since we've seen a Kickstarter go absolutely fucking nuts. But let's talk about Yooka-Laylee. So Yooka-Laylee is a platformer from some of the key members of the Banjo-Kazooie and the Donkey Kong 64 team. They did not want very much money to begin with, honestly, to make this game. And they quickly hit all stretch goals, and right now they're sitting at $2,198,406.
How much time?
Less
than a week?
They did most of that in a day. I mean, I remember watching, before I even knew what it was, there were people on Twitter, updating by like every 5-10 minutes that they had hit another stretch goal. I mean, this money just came pouring in. So, what is it? It's essentially, if you look at the characters, Yooka and Laylee, it is going to be another Banjo-Kazooie type game. There's a lizard and there's a bat. The lizard is a male, the bat is a female, and
the bat's on the back of.
Bat's on the back, much like Banjo and Kazooie. Even the same structure. You know, okay. how they sit. It's going to be a 3D platformer, and they promise a return to the rare style 3D platformers of the Nintendo 64. It looks cute, and it does look colorful, and I think the character design, you know what, I didn't like it at first. It's grown on me. I think they're kind of neat-looking characters.
Sure.
I think the concept art is pretty great, and some of the ideas that they even talk about, like a pinball-themed level and whatnot, is very cool. What's interesting to me about this is they are touting the fact that it's a return to their old form. And they even mention that there are going to be collectibles for progression called pages. So what confuses me is I think different age levels maybe have different nostalgia for different things. Or, I mean, it could just be personal taste, but I mean, and Pat can back me up or argue me on this. When we go back to the N64 era, when it came out, games like Donkey Kong 64 and Banjo-Kazooie were not exceptionally well regarded among game players, especially Donkey Kong 64. Banjo-Kazooie fared a little bit better, but because they were these very... All you did was collect stuff to move on. You ran around these environments, and you stressed yourself out trying to find these stupidly hidden items just so you could move on. The progression of the game, therefore, felt very stunted, unlike a Mario where you're constantly moving forward. Even a Sonic, where you're constantly moving forward and progressing and seeing new things, there's lots of backtracking and hunting and pecking, and personally, I always got upset trying to play these games.
I'm always glad when these projects get funded, just because if people want it and they can't get it otherwise, here you go.
No, I'm very happy that
these are people involved with the original creation, and they're, you know...
The happiness of others on this has me more excited about it than I ever would have been, because I'm seeing a lot of genuine glee and joy out of it, and that's cool. What I guess I'm wondering is, when did that gameplay style suddenly come back into fashion?
Well, it didn't. 3D platformers died out around the PlayStation era.
Yes.
And they died out for a reason.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the love was the fact that it was new.
Exactly.
And most of them weren't well done. Mario 64 is considered a classic because Nintendo managed to do it right and help explode that 3D platformer genre. But after that, you run out of games that are considered classic in the 3D platformer realm.
The only one that I would say that I liked beyond was Rayman 2, because it also focused less on the collecting as a means of progression.
I think this is a case of not be careful of what you wish for, but maybe this is a little rose-tinted glasses.
Yes.
I loved playing this game when I was 10 or 9 or 8. On the 64, it's 20 years later, just about. Now let's play another 3D platformer since I haven't seen it, and they're going to forget, like you said, the shortcomings of the genre.
It gets monotonous very, very quickly.
Not just monotonous in terms of it's just, like you said, collecting stuff, going back and forth. Oh, you talk to this person, find this banana, find this key, come back to me. 3D platforming is when it's not done well, it's awkward. It's very awkward.
Because a lot of it, what I'm talking about, is not even keys or things like that. It's you arbitrarily need 30 coins for this door to open so that you
Sure.
can continue.
Well, I'm just saying, just the mechanics are awkward.
Yeah.
It's just hard when you're in the 3D mode. It's hard to gauge the depth sometimes of going. I mean, people talk about some of the worst parts in the Zelda 3D games is doing those platforming sections and, you know, just getting around those areas. You know what I mean? And so, to me, that's not... To me, a platformer only works if it's, like you said, you're constantly moving forward, you're quick, you know you're very precise with the controls, and I haven't played a huge amount of the Banjo games, but I played a little bit just to know that it's not my thing. It's just not my thing.
No.
But if you grew up with it, of course, I like playing these games. But I think this could be the case of once you play it, you'll be like, oh, this is fine, but I don't see this like relaunching the genre.
No,
I just don't. I don't even see it being like the point and click adventure games, where the genre wasn't the game. Like for this, the genre is more the game versus a point and click, where it's just the structure of the game. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
This is the draw is the genre itself, and that's a very dangerous thing to get into, because if the charm of that wears off, what are you left with? You're left with a bare bones experience, like you said, where it can get tiresome after an hour.
Because
or two.
what they could have done, and I'm not saying that they're not, but part of the reason that these older games were collectathons was because of restrictions of hardware. You could only make your environments so big.
Before I had to reload.
Before you had to do more, before you had to create a new level, before your cartridge space or your disc space was just totally taken up. So you had to give people a reason to stay in one area and not blow through these areas. It's why games like Mega Man were made hard, to artificially create a longer game. What they could do with this is make larger levels without the collectibles and keep progression moving. You could create a gorgeous world for these two characters to explore. And maybe they will, but then if progression is still based on collectibles, then that becomes even more frustrating because you have more ground to cover to find these things.
Some of the stretch goals are interesting, and it'll be interesting seeing how they play out. Like a 2 to 4 player local multiplayer mode, a co-op buddy mode. I guess one controls the bat. That's going to be interesting if it's one screen or two. A quiz mode. 4 more local multiplayer games added to the... I guess they'll add different modes. Maybe like a Bomberman mode. I don't know.
Well, see, this is what I did like about it. Is like the people who are making it obviously want to have fun with it.
An N64 shader mode.
Yes.
They're also going to do the bad frame rate with that too, you know?
I mean, they're having fun with it. And like I said, the people who are excited for it, I'm glad you're excited. And I hope it turns out well. I just don't know why this needs revisiting.
It's not for us, obviously.
Yes.
It's for these people.
Sure.
It's the same way that these people wouldn't buy a Space Quest Kickstarter, but I would.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's the same thing. So I'm just, like I said, I'm just skeptical of just people getting tired of it. But hey, if they didn't get tired of Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, they won't get tired of this.
Maybe it's one last trip down memory lane.
Sure.